Was that its name?
She was a child.
You brought her here. Hello. You really didn't know it was me. Not even deep down? You attacked me while my back is turned? Not very Jedi of you.
What are you?
I have no name, but a Jedi like you might call me Sith.
Why risk discovery?
Well, I did wear a mask.
Welcome, Masters and Padawans, to episode 570 of Full of Sith, the last of 2024. It's me, Bryan Young. With me as ever, the redoubtable Holly Frey.
Double doubting. I'm never going to let that go. I know that's not what it means. It's just funny to me. Hi, how are you?
You're going to change the meaning of it. Like Webster's is going to be like, well, I guess redoubtable means double doubting now.
Double doubter.
Oh, man.
That would be
no,
amazing.
I'm doing swell. How about yourself?
I'm in an oddly good mood. For no particular reason. You know, the world is still on fire.
Yeah.
But I've been getting a lot of sewing done, and I'm getting my house more organized, so that puts me in a good humor.
Excellent. Excellent. I like it when you're in good humor.
My four humors are balanced.
Yeah. As the sirens start in the background. So we're gonna look back at all of the stuff that has happened in the happened in Star Wars in 2024, and kind of take a look ahead at what we're excited for in 2025. A lot has happened this year. It's been a lot, actually. As I was looking through it, there's been a lot that's happened in Star Wars, and we thought we'd go through and catalog it all as this is the last episode of 2024, both as we record and as gets released. So, to cap off our 11th year as Full of Sith. We would do that. Is there anything, before I get into like a formal list, is there anything off the top of your head that seems the most amazing in your memory, Holly? Or is it just like you're just going to blurt out Neil?
I mean, that is a danger. I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed with. I have so many thoughts about Skeleton Crew that I don't know if we'll dig into or not in the process of this. But it's been a weird year, right? There's been a lot of conflict in the fandom. There's also been a lot of delight and joy, and I hope that everyone can walk away from this year. I mean, it's been a tumultuous year on the world stage outside of Star Wars. So I'm hoping that people can remember that, your fandom should be something that brings you joy, and that people can find the things that bring them joy and let go of the things that they don't.
Yeah, no, this is definitely something that I've been trying to remind people in other fandoms as well, is that if there is a person or a thing or a part of your fandom that is not bringing you joy, ignore it. Don't let it get in the way of your enjoyment of the things that do bring you joy.
Yeah.
You're in a fandom because you enjoy that thing, and just because something new comes out that you don't enjoy, it should not interrupt the joy that you do derive from the other parts of the fandom. If your interaction with the fandom is playing a game in the fandom, the new movie should not destroy your love of playing that game. If your love of the fandom is a cartoon, the release of a game should not destroy your love of watching that cartoon. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Things like that. You need to find the love and the positivity for something where it is. If they bring in a creative that you hate or disagree with, whatever that creative makes should not infringe on what joy you find in these things either.
Yeah,
just let them do their thing.
There's so much. Here is my thing at this point, right? I know this. I struggle with this, I think, more than you do. There is so much in Star Wars. There's so much new stuff that it's impossible to take it all in unless it is literally your full-time job, right? By the time you factor in like all the books, all the comics, all of the various little things that pop up, like, if you even want to include things like Star Wars Lo-Fi, like there's so much stuff constantly coming out that you can't keep up with. So why not worry about the things that you don't like and just keep up with the parts you do? It's impossible for most of us to be encyclopedic about it anymore anyway. So just take what you love and roll on with the rest.
Yes, well said. So that's, I think, if we're starting with sort of like resolutions for 2025, I think that's take that energy going in, whether it's Star Wars fandom or any other fandom, whether that's, BattleTech, hint, hint, or any others. No, there was, that is something that affects BattleTech. There was somebody that made a comment to me about how just me existing in BattleTech was ruining their enjoyment of the tabletop game, and I had to tell them, I was like, listen, like, I'm sorry I make you feel that way. If you want to talk to me, I'm happy to like talk to you about this and like see what we can do to make you not feel that way. But seriously, like, you are into BattleTech because you love throwing those dice at the table and shooting up mechs on the table. Don't let me get in the way of that. Like, go play at that table and have your fun. Like, just because I'm writing stories in the universe does not mean that should get in the way of your love of that. And I think that that's true in any fandom, like, and for anybody being involved.
Yeah, especially because for most of these, almost any big fandom at this point, with a couple of exceptions, it's bigger than any one creator anyway. So, yeah. The same thing we've been saying. It's the parts you love are still there. They didn't get erased.
Yeah. So, as we've done this in years past, down the list of things that we're doing, we'll take the StarWars.com list of the 2024 look back, and we'll just kind of go down their list. The first thing on their list was the announcement of the Mandalorian and Grogu and Ahsoka 2, the Ahsoka Season 2.
Yeah.
So production has completed on the Mandalorian and Grogu, which will come out in 2026, which actually marks, that'll be 7 years between Star Wars theatrical releases.
Holy Moses.
I know. Well, the pandemic makes that feel a lot shorter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. We weren't doing any movies.
Yeah. And it lists specifically that Sigourney Weaver is starring in the film.
Which is fascinating.
Which doesn't surprise me at all. Like, I went through and we watched with Kingston all the Mandalorian and Ahsoka recently. And I was sort of like, when you watch it all stacked up, it's almost adorable how many actors from the Alien franchise pop up, specifically Aliens, right? Like, yeah. It just seems like those guys like those actors a lot, and that movie specifically, which is great. That movie's terrific.
Oh, yes.
But that Sigourney Weaver's finally in Star Wars is just sort of delightful to me.
Yes, can I tell you, as that has played out, there's like, this is a little bittersweet. So there's like a piece of heartbreak for me because that means we won't ever get Bill Paxton in Star Wars, which I think would have been a damn delight.
Oh man, he would have been like, I imagine him as like a really high-strung alien.
Yeah. Or a really kind of gross, seedy crime lord.
Yeah. He could have played a part like DJ really well too.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, pour one out for Bill. We miss him.
Yeah. And there's plenty of other actors in there too. The one I was like, I think the most recent might have been the guy who played Drake, who popped up in Ahsoka. I don't know. I really love the ensemble nature of that cast and all of the Colonial Marines in that movie.
Yeah.
And so seeing them pop up is always just a delight. And it's like, wait a second, I know that guy. And then looking it up and going like, wait, that was Drake. He was one of the smart gun operators. And
yeah.
Next thing we're gonna need Ferraro, and we're gonna need Apone, and we're gonna need Wierzbowski and Frost, Dietrich, and we'll need all of them. And I'm fine with that.
Yes.
Maybe Apone could step in and do some body doubling for Grief Karga. Who knows?
Maybe. Although we won't know until 2026, so.
Yeah. And then Ahsoka season 2 is also going to be around.
Yeah.
And that is interesting because I wonder how much of that, like we do know that Dave Filoni the year before got announced for, the New Republic movie, and who knows how much Ahsoka season 2 is going to lead into that. Because we've got Sabine and Ahsoka stranded on Paradia, and we have Thrawn back in on Dathomir right now, and we have Ezra back with Hera, and we have the Mandalorian on some grand adventure. How are all these story threads going to tie into this new giant New Republic story? And when is that going to play out? Who knows? Who knows?
Who knows? But I hope that also means that we'll get more weird sisters. Thank you.
Yeah.
The stars of Ahsoka, if you ask me. They're very much my favorite part. So, them and the Lothcats.
Yeah, no, Ahsoka was really good. And that we're getting another season of it is terrific. And I hope we get more Hayden Christensen. I love how much Hayden Christensen we got in the first season of the show, and I hope that we get more. The moment where it ends with him sort of smiling is just so pitch perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, it was really good.
I'm excited.
So the next thing on the list, this year 2024 brought us Skeleton Crew.
Yeah, it did.
So you can go into Neil.
Oh, I love everything about it. I love that Neil's mom is kind of a badass.
Yeah. No, I did like that.
Ooh, I love it. I love that whole family. I love. Here's a question.
Okay.
The twins' names are Jorka and Jodo, or sometimes Jorko and Jodo. It's making me a little crazy.
Well, it's like the British pronunciations of things, right? Well, they'll pronounce the last consonant weird.
I think, though, I could be wrong. I think Neil actually says it differently in two different places. I need to go back and triple check it, but it's fine. It's not a big deal. It doesn't matter. They're adorable. I don't care. I do have so many thoughts that I won't go into all of them, but I do have this one, right? Because we saw Ad Akron in episode 4, where Neil got his, as I've called her, his French parkour girlfriend. Here's what was interesting to me that stood out. And this is a Neil-centric thing that I'm coming back to. So
Color me surprised.
Ad Akron, much like Ad Atten, has a very specific mix of species, right? We see Athorians, we see Rhodians, praise Greedo, and we see the species. I don't think the species has been named, but whatever Runa is, we see some background characters that look like her. What we didn't see there were anybody that looks like Neil's family. So I'm like, this is fascinating, because it seems like, I mean, my thought process is that perhaps each of the Atworlds, the jewels,
Runa is a Vazuan.
Okay. Each of the Atworlds seems like they were like seeded with the same starter kit of species, right? Because we commented on an earlier episode that when they get to the pirate port, Neil's like, look at all these aliens, and I'm like, look around your planet. But they're clearly like sets of species that they're very familiar with. And so I'm like, are there other families that look like Neil's family somewhere? Because we haven't seen. Anyway, this is my big inspector situation that I'm trying to suss out right now.
They exterminated all of the Neils on Ad Akron, is what you're getting to?
No, not at all. I just don't understand why they don't seem to have anybody that looks like him, when it seems like they duplicate all the other species from Ad Atten.
Because they got wiped out.
No, I can't bear to think of it. I cannot bear to think of it. It's just interesting to me. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. No, and I think what happened, like, it was interesting to see that that planet didn't have a barrier any longer.
Yeah, it has like satellites that maybe could have been at one point maintaining a barrier, but they don't appear to be working now.
Yeah.
We only got 3 more episodes.
That blows my mind more than anything, is that we've only got 3 episodes, because I could just watch this, like, I wish this was like a full 20 episode series.
Me too.
And I actually read an interview with John Watts where he'd been developing this as a movie for a while.
Yeah.
And I could have totally taken this as a movie. I could have totally taken this as a trilogy. But I could totally see this as like a Goonies style, just a one-off movie.
Yeah.
But I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying this one-off sort of episode of the week sort of situation, but I would have loved to see it in the theater, and I could have totally dug seeing this compressed into a film.
Yes, I think it would have been a fine film, but I am enjoying getting to spend more time with everybody. And I know, I think it was John Watt that mentioned they have like their concept for season 2. So I hope we get a season 2, because I would watch this every week for the rest of my life and be happy as a clam.
Yeah, no, it is really, really enjoyable stuff. And it seems like the normal online complaints about Star Wars have been very minimal with this compared to others. Yes, there was some consternation and anger about episode 3 giving us KB's moms.
Yeah.
Which is absurd to me. And then episode 4 caused a little bit of consternation about, a planet that seems to have not only women fighting in war, but child warriors, and it seems to be glorified.
Right.
When they're centering women as the strong fighters instead of men, and it's misandrist somehow. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I still have my hangups regarding that about General Strix in general. I'm like, is he a bad guy? Because
I mean, I think Neil was the right one there, saying like, this is bad. Fighting's bad.
Oh, agreed.
Like, go apologize. Like, this violence only begets violence.
Yeah.
Like, that's the point of the episode. And the kids are only being taught what their parents are teaching them. And it's this cascading effort. Like, so people going like, man, the fact that they're centering women warriors is so far by like missing the point, like so hard it's ridiculous.
Right.
It's like they're warring over like crap that doesn't matter. They're not working together. They're just fighting each other over the same land and the same crap when they can, like, we're literally given the contrast of a utopia where they're all literally working together and being fine.
Yeah, it's peaceful.
Yeah,
as Neil says.
And the most difficult thing they have to cope with is slap ball. You know, like, that's the issue. The fact that they're like, we'll take up arms and we'll go attack them. That's the issue, not the fact that the girl has taken up arms.
Right. Yeah. I'm mostly just, struggling with the fact that Strix is Amelie's adorable boyfriend. I can't quite accept him as evil.
Yeah.
I'm on the struggle bus with that part. But I'm obsessed. I will shut up about Neil for at least 4 minutes.
Was it you who asked me I don't think it was you who asked me. I think Patty asked me that, like, are they somehow, because they have the same accents as Twi'leks?
Oh, right.
Like, are they somehow, and I explained it away. I was like, maybe there's Twi'leks there, or maybe they just learned basic from Twi'leks, or maybe there's 100 reasons that they have that accent, or maybe they learned from, I don't know, they just have those accents, and that was the end of it. But like,
I mean, I suspect, it's kind of like the way there are some accents that develop on Earth in different cultures that have similar cadences and stuff. It doesn't happen often, but it does happen. So it's not outside the realm of possibility. That didn't bother me at all. Although
I didn't even.
I did think about, I did want to yell for Ryloth, but
well, I was also like, maybe they're half Twi'lek.
Oh.
Or maybe they're descended from Twi'leks.
Maybe, but they're. I don't think they're Twi'lek. I just don't.
I mean, they could be part Twi'lek from way back.
They could be culturally Twi'lek, if not genetically Twi'lek.
Jason doesn't have head tails.
Yeah.
They could have just bred the head tails out, and they're like 1/10 Twi'lek from way back.
Listen, I'm still the person that has some Jason struggle bus as well, so just no shade to that actor or anything. Anyway, it goes back to my same problems with everything related to like happy family romance stuff that I don't really need in my Star Wars, but it's fine and it's great that other people love it.
That's not what I was pointing out, though.
I know, but that's part of why I'm not wild about. I mean, yes, we don't know the genetic, the rules of genetic expression for different species, right? I don't have a Punnett square to like figure out which is the recessive versus the dominant gene in that scenario. I mean, clearly at that point it would appear that the humanoid gene is dominant, right? Because if Jason is the result of a Twi'lek mother and a human male, for lack of a better word, and he turned out looking human, then you would think that Leku are a recessive gene.
But somehow he got her skin color for his hair. I don't know. It's very weird.
Right. Well, because different. I mean, I'm about to nerd out, but different traits sit at different points on the genetic chain. So you can have a mix that way, right? Like Leku may be recessive, but green hair may be dominant. That can
Yeah.
happen. It's not like all the Twi'lek genes have to be recessive.
Yeah, no, it was just interesting that like it would have been almost more interesting if he'd had green skin.
Right.
I don't know.
I don't know. Or, what if he came out looking like Beezer Fortuna, just kind of a weird, scraggly version of it?
It was just interesting that they chose to make him look as normal 9-year-old as possible or whatever. Okay. Next on the list, The Acolyte brought the High Republic era to live action.
Oh, Jord. Alas, poor Jord. We knew thee well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm still bummed.
I am too. I know Manny has been on the press tour or the convention circuit telling everybody like we had people like we had everything lined up to tell a story over 3 seasons. We wanted to do it. But there's been some folks coming out and saying like it was straight up just the cost. Like the haters had nothing to do with it.
Right.
Even though they're still going to crow victory over it. I hope that they find a way to tell the story cheaper and
Same.
Kathleen Kennedy says, okay, if this is the price at which we could do it, then let's do it.
Right. That would make me happy in my heart. Yeah. Yeah, I want to know more about all of it. I want more May and Osha. I want more. I mean, we can't have more Jackie. She's gone, alas.
Well, we're getting some books with Jackie.
Yeah, but in terms of live action, unless we did flashbackies, and that's a whole other, potentially a different littler Jackie. I don't know. Anyway, my point being, I'm bummed.
Well, I think we are going to get flashbacks. If we go back, we're going to have flashbacks, right? Because I think presumably one of the places we'd have to go if that story continued would be Vernestra and Kamir's Master Padawan relationship, right?
Yeah, I mean, we got to figure out what the heck happened to Vernestra Rowe, that's for sure. Right? Like,
yeah.
That's a gear change.
I'm not, like, I don't know. Have you read Tears of the Nameless?
Okay, when I tell you I don't know, please don't mock me.
I'm not going to mock you.
I can't keep any of the titles straight. I cannot do it. I'm struggling.
It's the most recent George Mann young adult book, and it's where they finally realize what causes the blight. And it's
I have not read that one yet. I haven't read it.
Okay. Well, she has some brushes with the dark side there.
Nice.
So maybe it's not so much of a left turn.
Gotcha. I just finished the Mace book, so
wasn't that fun?
Yes, I quite liked it. But right now I'm on my, I have to revisit all my vampire things because we're in Nosferatu times.
Yeah, I really liked that movie.
I did too. I'm re-listening to the Icelandic translation of Dracula as translated back to English. Do you know that whole story?
No.
Do you care if we go down a brief Dracula side street?
I love Dracula. Go ahead.
I do too. Okay, sorry this isn't Star Wars, but it's really interesting. So
it's Christopher Lee related. It's fine. It's close enough.
This isn't Christopher Lee related at all, in fact. But
well, no, it's Nosferatu, Dracula, Christopher Lee, Count Dooku.
Oh, you're getting it. You're connecting it. Yeah. So 100 plus years ago, Dracula was published in Icelandic, and that's cool. But then, in the last 15 years, that Icelandic edition, which had a preface by Bram Stoker. So he knew about it. It wasn't like an unauthorized translation, was translated back into English, and people realized it's a different book. It's not completely different. It's the same base story, but there are a lot of different things that happen. There are different characters added to it. And it's really, really interesting, and it's quite good. And so for some reason that I don't know, Audible is no longer going to carry it after the end of the year. So I'm going back and re-listening to it again. If you're into Dracula, it's quite good. There are additional aspects to that story. It's long been discussed whether this was a purposeful, different version that Bram Stoker had actually been working on, and that he had, purposely given them a slightly different version, or whether the initial translator, who may have actually been Swedish, because it was also published in Sweden, and this may be the Icelandic translation from the Swedish, whether they just took liberties during their translation, knowing that no one was probably going to catch it. But it's a very fun, interesting, deep dive into Dracula lore that shifts some stuff around in an interesting way. So I'm over there. I will come back to the High Republic after I'm done with Dracula time.
Yeah. So the High Republic, I mean, on top of the Acolyte coming out, there's been a ton of great High Republic stuff coming out. But yeah, maybe that turn of Vernestras hasn't been so hard.
Yeah. I'm hoping. Here's what I would hope. Like you, I really hope they figure out a way to continue this story in live action with a budget that is within the confines that like Disney is okay with or whatever. And I really hope that if that were to happen, that there would be a little bit better support from the corporate entities involved for like the actors that really get pummeled online sometimes, right? I mean, that whole thing is very troubling to me. Like the weird racist attacks that happen against people. I do not understand why anyone has so little going on in their lives that that's what they choose to spend their time doing. But I really would love to see a little more support for those folks, because that's rough. Even if you are the most stable, well-adjusted person in the world, having randos tell you all day long terrible things about how they feel about you and might want to do to you it still takes a toll. So that's my mini rant. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it would be. It's hard to talk about the Acolyte as, a look back on 2024 in Star Wars without the completely unfortunate racist backlash. It wasn't even just racist, but the political backlash that happened to it that started before it even came out.
Yeah.
If you go back and look at so many of those accounts of people who are just like attacking it, it started before it came out, and then as soon as it came out, people would say like, well, no, you didn't like it because there were strong women involved, there were queer people involved, there were queer people making it, you didn't like it because of that. And then they would pivot and say, no, you're just telling me that because I didn't like it because it was just bad writing.
Right.
But then you'd go look at their stuff, and it was like they were saying the exact same, they were leveling the exact same attacks against it before they'd seen it, before it had come out.
Yeah.
And so they were kind of using that bad writing thing as a shield. And there wasn't really any bad writing in The Acolyte. The Acolyte was very finely written. It was very deliberately written. It was written in a very interesting way to unfold a mystery and keep an audience who is engaged and paying attention on the edge of their seat, asking questions. Like if you're an engaged audience member, and I wonder, I read something, there was a writer who was working on a Netflix show And they said that the direction from Netflix was that the direction from the executives was that you needed to be more blatant about what was happening. You needed to repeat and restate what was going on and eliminate subtext from the dialogue.
Okay.
So that people making spaghetti, people like watching passively
People
or
making
doing something
spaghetti.
else, yeah,
That's a great phrase.
yeah, could keep up. People only half watching could understand what was going on.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if part of why people are saying, oh, it was bad writing, this didn't make sense, are part of that crowd that's getting catered to by Netflix, right? That are like used to shows that are really pandering to them, only paying attention with like one eye on their phone and one eye on the screen and one ear on everything else and one ear on the show,
Right.
where they're only half paying attention and they're not catching all of the nuance. I can't tell you how many times people will say, well, what about this? And I'll think to myself, that's addressed in the show.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, and as I'm connecting those dots now, I'm like, I wonder if that's why people think it's bad writing, because they don't understand subtext anymore. They don't understand reading between the lines. They don't understand that the juxtaposition of images tells the story as much as someone saying something out loud.
Yeah. I think that is a huge problem. I mean, that happens. That has been going on in, I hate the word discourse, but here we are, in Star Wars discourse, I feel like since The Force Awakens.
Yeah.
And probably before that, but I really noticed it then, because I remember talking to someone in my workplace when that came out and them being like, they brought up specifically, and then I saw a writer, like a movie reviewer, bring up the same thing, and I was like, oh my gosh, you shouldn't have this job if you can't pay attention. The issue of how did all the Rathtars get loose on Han's freighter? And I'm like, what do you mean how? They showed us exactly how. But like, I saw it come up not only in conversation, and I would explain it and they would go, I don't remember that. And I'd be like, clearly. But then I saw like a reviewer say something about it, like for a big outlet. I'm trying to remember which one it was. And I was just like, what is going on? And it's just kind of it's been that in a lot of cases since then.
For Dial of Destiny, I had to write an explainer for how the Dial of Destiny actually worked, because people couldn't figure out why it didn't go back in time to Nazi Germany where it was supposed to, instead of going all the way back. And it was like, it was math that Archimedes had figured out that this was a dial that was going to get help. And when these things opened, they were all setting him back to a fixed point because he figured that out.
Right.
It was only ever going to send him back. And that's all in the movie.
Yeah.
And so like I ended up writing this 1,000-word article for Slash Film, and people kept going like, oh, I didn't understand how it worked. And I remember, I mean, I was on lots of drugs when Kingdom of the Crystal Skull came out, because I had my gallbladder taken out like literally a day and a half before I saw it the first time. And I remember leaving the theater going like, I don't think all of my complaints about that movie were things in the script not making sense. And I chalked it up to like, well, maybe I need to see it. I had a great time seeing it, but I was like, the script doesn't make sense as much as the others. And I heard people around me talking about how the script didn't make sense. And I was like, well, maybe they're right. Right. And I came up with all these issues about the script and why did this not work and why did that not work? And I went and saw it again, clear-headed.
Once all the Dilaudid was out of your system.
Yeah. And literally every question I had about the script was answered in the movie.
Yeah.
And I see this with The Last Jedi constantly too. People go like, well, what about this? Well, that's in the movie. Like, when people say like Canto Bight didn't serve a purpose.
Oh my gosh, it makes me furious.
I know, right? It's because like they're not paying attention to the movie, or like even just they don't understand simple cause and effect. So yeah, I wonder if people saying The Acolyte is bad writing is a result of them just literally not knowing how to watch stories anymore. And Acolyte was really sophisticated storytelling. And maybe that's why I don't want to say the level of storytelling in Skeleton Crew is less sophisticated. I think it's just as sophisticated as Acolyte, but it's just aimed at a different grade level.
Yeah, it's also just in terms of tonality, it's very different, right? Like, I think part of why everybody is so blissfully embracing it is that it is a fun romp at a time when everybody is kind of mentally and emotionally exhausted. That's, it's a salve for all of the scrapes of the year, and it's coming at a great time in terms of that. I mean, I also think it's just really well made, but I do think that's part of it. Its tone is so much more upbeat that you kind of can't help but love it. Plus, did I mention that there is this adorable character? He looks like a little blue elephant person, and he's really sweet, and he's like the standard carrier for kindness and being thoughtful and caring about other people.
Have I mentioned it? What's his name?
His name is Neil. He's easy to miss, but he's really, really quite cute if you give him a chance.
Oh, well. I'll have to look into him.
Maybe you'll watch it again.
Uh-huh.
Because he's there, I promise. He's there.
So another big thing we had this year that almost doesn't feel like this year, it feels like ages ago, is we had the series finale of The Bad Batch.
I would have, if you asked me in a pressure cooker situation, told you that series ended in 2023.
It started ending in 2023, but it finished in 2020. Oh no.
Are you okay?
Yes, I'm fine. It finished in 2024.
Yeah. When I first saw this right up on StarWars.com, I was like, wait, for real? I thought that was more than a year ago, but no.
Yeah. No, Bad Batch. I'm excited to see what's next for Lucasfilm Animation.
Yeah, me too.
It would be surprising to me if they're not already working on something else. We would have heard about like layoffs and closures if they weren't working on the next project.
Yeah.
Which means that they're probably already 3/4 of a season into whatever we're getting next.
Oh, easily.
And I really can't wait to know what that is.
Bryan, I don't want to scare you, but we're already like almost 50 minutes in, and we haven't gotten through half of the best of 2024 list to talk about 2025.
Okay, let's hurry. Okay, so we had Tales of the Empire dropped already.
I will never forgive Barasophie because I do not have grace in my heart. That's all I'm saying.
I know you don't. It's fine.
I don't have grace in my heart for her.
Yeah, there's a lot on this list. Jeez. That's surprising. A lot happened.
Right.
We're
going to go to speed round now.
I loved Tales of the Empire, and I did love Barris's story. I know you don't have grace in your heart, but I do.
I think it's an interesting story, but at the end of it, I cannot find forgiveness in my soul for Barasophie.
We had Lego Star Wars Rebuild the Galaxy came out this year.
Which I feel like is the sleeper of this whole thing. Like, I feel like not enough people have watched this.
Yeah, and it's everyone can watch it. You don't have to have Disney Plus for it. It is available in its entirety on YouTube now.
Yeah, and it's you don't need to know a ton of stuff. You don't need encyclopedic knowledge of lore. If you have that, you get some bonus winks and Easter eggs. But it's so funny and so delightfully told. I really, really hope more people seek it out and engage with it. And I mean, if you love something like Skeleton Crew for the joy it brings you, there's no reason not to watch this.
Yeah. No, it is. It's so fun and so funny, and all it's going to do is bring you joy. The next big thing on the list is 25 years of Phantom Menace, and we got to see it on the big screen again.
Yeah, that was great.
I really loved seeing it on the big screen and
Me
getting
too.
that preview of the Acolyte with it.
Yes.
Phantom Menace is just a great experience.
It's so fun, and it's tied to so many good memories as well. And I just, I have deep love for that movie. And I always
Yeah,
will. It's so beautiful. It's just brain-breakingly beautiful.
it really is. I was really excited. My Patty got me for the holiday celebrations this week. One of the jackets, the 25th anniversary like Phantom Menace jackets that our universe put out, like just the really gorgeous like bluish ones with stuff. I'm disappointed there's not a Jar Jar. Like Boss Nass is on it and Rep Bean is on it, but Jar Jar's not on it.
Yeah,
It's weird, but
it is weird.
it's really nice. And I really like it. But we also had Star Wars Outlaws.
Yeah, which I'm still working on. So it's the gift that keeps giving to me because I'm so slow.
I'm still playing it when I can. Like, I'm still enjoying it. I've been through all the DLC. I'm still going around. I still have a few treasure boxes to find, but I'm still like doing you can still pick up like jobs for people.
Right.
And even though they've gotten a little repetitive, I'm still enjoying those. So yeah, like I still haven't put it down, and I've beat everything. Yeah. How far do you estimate you are through it?
Oh, I'm not much farther than the last time we talked about it.
Oh, well, there you go.
I just haven't had time. It's that thing when you went for my job, when we get to the end of the year and people want to take time off, that means we have to get extra episodes in the can and programmed. So there's just, it's like you're working double hours for a while. So I just haven't had a chance to yet.
That's fair. That's fair. We also had Ahsoka, The Mandalorian, and Cassian join Star Tours.
Yes.
Which was a really fun trip. I got to go to Disneyland with Kingston this year and go check those out in a really special day. That was a lot of fun. And if you go back, you can listen to those episodes, and we interviewed some Imagineers and Matt Martin about that. That was amazing, which was interesting too, because he hadn't seen Ahsoka yet. We just watched those episodes of Ahsoka like a week ago.
Oh,
and the look of wonder on his face when he realized that like that was where we went and what we did on Star Tours, and he was like, that's what we did on Star Tours, was amazing.
I love it.
Yeah, it was good. It was really good.
They're shuffled in with everything now. Every time they release something new like that, they normally run exclusively that for a little while to ensure that you're going to get those new pieces when you visit. But now they're shuffled in, and now there's so much that it's really hard to know what you're gonna get on a Star Tours.
I know what I'm gonna get. I'm gonna end up on Hoth and Kashyyyk, and that's it.
I get a mix.
I'm convinced I'm never gonna see Crate again.
I saw Crate recently-ish. When we were there for, was it when we were there for Life Day? The night before Life Day was one of the Jollywood Nights parties, and I think we wrote it then, and we got Crate, because I remember being like, ah, and people thinking I was maybe having some sort of problem.
I mean, you might have been, but
yeah, no, I was very excited.
And then we had Music by John Williams come out, the documentary that's on Disney Plus.
I still haven't watched it because I'm scared.
Me neither, also because I'm scared. Maybe we should. Maybe that's something we should do early next year.
Okay.
Watch it for an episode.
Right. It'll just be me crying for an hour.
Maybe.
Highly likely.
And the last item on the list is that Star Wars and Darth Vader ended their 50-issue runs, and the High Republic continued its publishing as it marches toward its end as Phase 3 is going to be the last of the High Republic, and that's going to be the end, and we'll get something new out of Star Wars publishing after that.
That means we can get caught up.
Yeah. There's a lot of really cool, exciting stuff that happened this year, and you're right. For a year that didn't have a Star Wars celebration, that's a lot. And that didn't really. I mean, we did get a theatrical re-release of Phantom Menace, but aside from that, like that, we didn't get a new release in theaters. Although they did do fan events for The Acolyte and Skeleton Crew in theaters.
Yeah.
Personally, I still think I would love if they did Saturday matinees of all the new shows.
That would be really fun.
I would go to the theater on Saturday matinees and pay, even though I'm paying for Disney Plus to see them on Tuesdays, I would go on a Saturday matinee to see these shows on the big screen every week.
100%. Without hesitation.
Yeah. I don't know why they don't do that. It feels like leaving money on the table.
I don't know. Mysteries.
Yeah. So I've got some mail for us and a big question.
Okay.
So this question is from B. B asks, happy holidays, Holly and Bryan. I've been listening to you all since you started. I love the show. Love your positive attitude. Regarding your most recent episode and the critique that the sequels lacked a plan, I totally get that the plan was thrown into chaos when we sadly lost Carrie Fisher. I'm curious of both your thoughts on how JJ faced an unwinnable task to conclude the Skywalker saga with only the remnant footage of Carrie Fisher. Question: how do you think general audiences and or dedicated fans would have reacted to a hypothetical Episode 9 without General Leia? As in, what if the story started with Leia having died? How do you think a mass audience would react versus fans since 1977? I really struggle with this idea. Part of me thinks it would have been better for the movie to have started with the loss of Leia, but in a universe of Force ghosts, especially after an Episode 8 that demonstrated Leia's power in the Force so uniquely, I wonder if people would have accepted her explicit absence. I remember sitting in the theater in 2019 and seeing the cobbled together scenes of remnant footage and thinking, it sucks so much that Carrie Fisher isn't really there. Do you think audiences would have responded better to starting 9 with an already gone Leia? Love the show and keep up the good work, B.
This is such a good question.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's any one answer, right? Because for one thing, like, different people are going to react differently, especially when it is something that is so emotionally heavy as the loss of Carrie Fisher and the way that that is handled for her fictional character on screen. Like, there's no one way that's going to hit right for even the majority of people. I mean, I think it's a pretty widespread thing. So I'm trying to think about how I would handle it.
I think for the filmmakers, there's really only 3 options, right? And they had to make a decision, and they had to make a decision very quickly about what those 3 options are. Option 1 is what the question described, right? Just start the story from scratch, kill her in the opening crawl, and move forward from there. I think with her not having a Force ghost, it would raise questions in the story, in the canon, especially with how she presented her Force abilities in Episode 8.
Fair, yeah.
The other option on the other end of the absolute other end of the spectrum is that you got to remember that Lucasfilm had already started with the technology with Peter Cushing to actually do a digital Leia, use scraps of her footage, have a voice double, and move forward with the story that they had wanted to do, but with a digital Leia. And I think either of those would have caused a problem one way or the other. I think J.J. Abrams and his approach is the third option. And I think he probably chose the option that was going to cause the least amount of problems. I think all of the approaches caused problems.
Right. As I said, there's
PR.
no way. Yeah.
Yeah. I think all of those approaches cause a PR problem no matter what. But I think his approach caused the minimum amount of PR problems with audiences, where it's like, oh, we just took her existing footage, her last performance, outtakes, cut scenes, things like that, and we cut it into the film and we crafted it around her. Feels a lot more genuine and respectful than we crafted a new performance with a sound alike using her image and her voice to tell a story that sends her off, and it pays her more respect than we just killed her.
I agree. And I think on a more meta note, like outside of the wanting to carefully and respectfully handle her character and what had happened to Carrie, I do think there is also, and I admit I would be one of these people, I don't know that this is the healthiest way, but I feel like if they had gone with the kill General Leia in the crawl approach, and then people found out, oh, there is still some footage sitting around that didn't get used. I mean, I know I would be like, I would give anything to see that some of that footage. And so I feel like for me that would have felt, I would have felt very sad, and irrationally so, admittedly, that like we didn't get, whatever 4 minutes they may have had on film of her. So
the thing I'm sort of like, I'm always baffled by people who say like, oh, they should have just killed her when Kylo blasts the Raddus. They should have forced Rian Johnson to alter his film to kill her there. And that never felt like an option to me. I don't think that film works that way. I don't think
it doesn't for me, for sure.
No, like I feel like that film falls apart that way because it unbalances everything, and it totally ruins the entire story that way, because Poe needs that, the Resistance needs that, Luke's return needs that, the entire emotional weight of the movie needs that, Rey needs that for the ending. Killing Leia there solves one problem but creates 40 more.
Yeah, agreed.
And so I don't think that was an option. There's no reason to ruin 2 movies with her death than just having to figure out one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Rian Johnson was already, like, her work on that movie was done. She'd already done her post-production work. Rian Johnson was so far ahead of schedule on his movie. I remember when she passed away, like he had said, like, no, her work on my movie's done.
Right.
Because people were worried that she wasn't even going to be able to finish The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
And I think part of that was because they were so accustomed to J.J. Abrams' style of filming, where it was just they were recording stuff in the parking lot 3 days before release.
Right. Yeah. Which is, I want to be clear, like, that different people work different ways, and that doesn't, it's probably more tense for a lot of people, but that doesn't make that wrong necessarily.
No, it doesn't. I think if you look at Force Awakens, which is an excellent movie, and The Last Jedi, which is a better than excellent movie, J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson definitely have different modes of filmmaking and how they construct a story, and it doesn't make either wrong. I think Rian Johnson comes better prepared and is more confident in his choices, and J.J. Abrams is more seat of his pants. I think I prefer the stories J.J. Abrams, or I prefer what Rian Johnson comes up with because it feels more thought out to me. But J.J. Abrams is still very entertaining. They're two different styles of filmmaking. I don't mean to denigrate J.J. Abrams in any way.
Yeah.
His method of storytelling is very valid. But yeah, no, I think J.J. Abrams, to his credit, he chose the path to deal with Carrie Fisher that I think was probably right. And I don't think that he and Chris Terrio get enough credit for crafting a story in the time allotted to cap off the Skywalker saga while featuring Carrie Fisher with the footage that they had in the way that they did. Like, I don't think people give enough. You can think what you want about a lot of things about Rise of Skywalker, but the challenge they had in trying to find a way to say anything meaningful about the Star Wars galaxy and the themes and the things that it sums up across the entire saga, and incorporate Carrie Fisher with what they had the way they did, I don't think they get enough credit for that, and that was an impossible task under an impossible deadline.
Yeah, I agree.
And yeah, they could have just thrown it out. They could have just made her CG. They could have killed her beforehand, but I think both of those options would have caused a revolt among fans one way or the other.
Yeah.
Where can people find you, Holly?
On Instagram as SurlyGirly5 and on Blue Sky as me, Holly Frey. And you can find Missed in History everywhere under that handle. If you are into stuff you missed in history class, going back to my Dracula Jam, we just reran as a Saturday classic our episode on F.W. Murnau, who directed the first Nosferatu, which was the first vampire film, which is a very good one, and I'm very proud of that one. So if you're in your vampire zone like I am, go check that out. And of course, Criminalia continues apace. If you didn't get everything you wanted for Christmas, our book Killer Cocktails is still out and available, and you can make cocktails and mocktails to go with a lot of historical stories of crime. How about you?
You can find me at Swankmatron, wherever there is social media, mostly on Blue Sky and Instagram these days, or at swankmotron.com, where you can pre-order a copy of my new Battletech book that comes out January 24th. It's called Voidbreaker, and it's very fun, and I hope you check it out. Also, Catalyst Game Labs released for the holiday 2 free short stories that you can still download, one in the Shadowrun universe and one in the Battletech universe that I wrote. So you can just go to the Catalyst Game Labs website and go download those for free. Those were very fun. As far as Full of Sith goes, you can go to fullofsith.com and download the entire back catalog of episodes going back 11 years of Full of Sith episodes, guests, interviews, all kinds of speculation and opinions about Star Wars going back since before the sequel trilogy was even made. We'd love to hear from you. Please send us your emails. We're going to be answering those every week on the show. You can send us those at holocron@fullofsith.com. And please be sure to rate and review the show wherever it is you listen to it. We'd love to hear what you think about us, as long as it's nice. If it's not nice, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. So unless you think there's anything else, Holly.
No, maybe next time we'll talk about what we're looking forward to in 2025.
Yeah, maybe. So for super producer Mike Pilot, and for Holly Frey, I'm Bryan Young, and the Force will be with you always.
Sir, if you'll not be needing me, I'll close down for a while.